guys, it's Maddie, and today I'll be sharing with you my top 10 favorite books of all time. Yes, you heard that right. Top 10 favorite of all time. I don't even know how I managed to make this list because I have so many favorites. It was really hard, but I managed to make an official top 10 books that I love out of all the books I've read as of this moment. But this list is bound to change as time goes on. I'm not saying this is my end-all, be-all list of favorite books of all time. I know that's not even possible because I know I'll read so many other books in the future that I'll end up loving and I will put on this list. But as of right now, these are my top 10 favorites, and I've been really wanting to do this video for a long time. I've been really excited for it, so let's just get into it. I do have a few honorable mentions of books that didn't quite make the list, but I still love them and would highly recommend them. The first one is Geekerella by Ashley Poston, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs, Fault in Our Stars by John Green, Warcross by Marie Lu, Forget Tomorrow by Pinto Dunn, The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson, Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco, My Heart and Other Black Holes by Jasmine Warga, None of the Above by I.W. Gregorio, Rebel Belle by Rachel Hawkins, The Declaration by Gemma Molly, and lastly, Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. Now, for those of you who have been on my channel before, I talk about this book a lot. I talk about how much I love it. I love this book. However, as I've read the rest of the books in the series, I've grown not to love this book as much as I first did when I first read it, just because I really don't like the other books in the series. In fact, I just recently decided to DNF the series after I got a few pages into the third book. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. These characters have just strayed so far away from me, and I don't care anymore. So that is why this book is not in the official top 10, but I still love this book. I love the first book. I hate the other books. But this first one is great. But the fact that I didn't like the rest of the series really made me change my mind a little about this book in particular. So I couldn't add it to the official top 10 list, but it's still a great book. And I do still consider it one of my favorites. So with those out of the way, let's get into my official top 10 favorite books of all time. So this list will be in order from least favorite to most favorite book of all time. But of course, I love all these books, even though I have a least favorite in this pile. So the first one I have is The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane by Kate DiCamillo. I love this book. I read this book for the first time in 4th grade, which was ages ago, but I just ended up loving it. It's such a great story. It is a children's story. Even so, I still loved it even when I reread it to this day. So this book is about a stuffed rabbit, or I think he's actually like made of glass. A glass rabbit, and he belongs to this little girl who ends up losing him while she's on a cruise ship, so he gets swept out to sea and gets passed around by different owners through a huge span of time. It is just such a remarkable story. It's an adventure story. It has such great themes in it. I still think back so fondly of this book at the time that I read it and how it impacted me, even as a little 4th grader. This book had the biggest impact on me, and I think every child should read it. And I can't wait for when I have future children and I will make them read this book, because it's just such a great story that I would highly recommend, and it definitely deserves a spot in my top 10 favorite books of all time. At number 9, I have Choker by Elizabeth Wood. This is a thriller book disguised as a contemporary book. At first, I thought this was going to be a contemporary book. It ended up being something so different from what I thought it was going to be. It completely blew my mind. I don't like to give the summary to this book since I think it gives away the main plot of this book, but all I can really tell you is that it's about this girl and her best friend that she hasn't seen in years suddenly shows up in her bedroom, and a bunch of crazy stuff goes on from there. It is such a good book, trust me. It is so underhyped, it is so underrated. No one talks about this book, but I love it so much, and I think it definitely deserves more hype than what it gets. I know it came out a long time ago, but I think still more people should talk about it, and I would definitely recommend for you to give it a try. It is definitely just one of my favorites. Coming in at number 8 is Gone by Michael Grant. I talk about this series a lot. It is a series I read before I even started BookTube, and it's kind of the series that actually got me into reading in the first place, so I owe a lot to this series. I love this book. So this book takes place in a world, or actually in a specific city in California, where all adults who are 15 years old and older disappear. All that's left in this town are the kids. And so the kids have to fend for themselves. They have to take care of the younger kids. They have to find food. It is such a crazy world and a crazy scenario. These kids are left all on their own to basically be the adults in this situation. And it is such a scary, crazy book. There are kids in this book who develop powers and like supernatural abilities, and some of them use their powers for evil, and it just can get very, very scary at times. But I love this book for its characters. It has a huge cast of characters, and all the characters seem to go through so much development, which really just fascinates me that there's so many characters in this story, but you get to see an in-depth look of all of them. It's just so cool that the author was able to handle that aspect so well. I've heard some people either love this series or hate it, so I don't know if it would be for you exactly. It just kind of depends. It's a very polarizing book, but I personally love it and I always recommend it. Coming in at number 7 is a classic, well-known YA dystopian book, very near and dear to me, The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I read this book back in middle school, kind of around the time when it came out, and I fell in love with it from the start. Everyone in my class had been talking about this book. All my teachers had been talking about it, trying to get everyone to read it, and I finally was like, okay, I'll read it, even though I was not a reader back then. But when I picked up this book and I read it, I flew through it. I loved the world so much. I loved the characters. It was my first time ever reading a dystopian book, and it made me really fall in love with this genre. To this day, I still love dystopian books. I'm obsessed with them, and it's all because of The Hunger Games. And this book will always just be so near and dear to my heart. And if you have not read it yet, I would be completely surprised, because like basically anyone who reads YA has read this book in their lifetime. But if you have not, definitely give this trilogy a try. It is amazing, and I promise you, you'll get suckered into it and not be able to put it down, because I definitely wasn't able to. At number 6, I have P.S. I Like You by Casey West. This is a book I read last year. It was the first Casey West book I had ever read. I completely fell in love with it. This is a contemporary book about a girl who is bored in chemistry class one day, so she starts writing song lyrics on her desk, and when she gets to class the next day, she looks at her desk and the lyrics to the song had been finished off for her. Someone had wrote the lyrics down and also left a letter for her. And this starts a chain of events where these two characters start exchanging letters throughout class, and they're both in separate classes, so they don't know who each other are, and this girl starts to fall in love with this person through the letters. It is such a cool concept. It has such a great romance. It has my favorite all-time romance trope in it, which is the haters, enemies to lovers trope. I love that trope, and this book does this trope so well. I would highly recommend this book if you're a fan of romance and contemporary books. It is such a great one, and it made me really want to pick up more of Casey West's books, which I need to do just because I love this book so much. At number 5 is a book I have claimed multiple times to be one of my favorite books of all time. That is Looking for Alaska by John Green. This was the second John Green book I read. I first read The Fault in Our Stars, and then I soon got to Looking for Alaska. Loved it so much more than The Fault in Our Stars. And this book itself gets a lot of hate, and I kind of understand why people don't like it, but at the same time, I kind of don't, just because I love this book so much. It left such a positive impact on me. It's about this boy who moves to this boarding school, and he kind of gets involved with the wrong crowd and starts doing not so great things, starts smoking and doing drugs. It's just not good. And he also meets this girl named Alaska who he kind of falls in love with. It sounds like your generic contemporary romance book, and it kind of is, but in a way it just does all the like regular tropes so well. I just love this book. I'm sad that a lot of people don't love it as much as I do, but I would still recommend you give it a try. Just because it's also kind of a polarizing book. I know a lot of people do love this book, including me, of course. So I would highly recommend this book if you have not read any of John Green's books. This is a good one to start with. along with The Fault in Our Stars. I think it will always remain one of my favorites, and I'll always reread it, and I will always love it. At number 4, I have a very taboo book. I can't believe I'm putting such a taboo book on this list, but this book just was, it was so great. It was so great. To this day, it still just gives me so much emotion when I think about it. That is Forbidden by Tabitha Zuma. I read this book 2 years ago. I completely fell in love with it. To this day, I can't stop thinking about this book. So this book deals with incest. Just hear me out. Just hear me out about this book. Yes, it deals with such a taboo topic that can make people uncomfortable, but it does this topic and handles it so well. So this book is about a boy and a girl who are siblings, of course. It deals with incest, and they are in a situation that is really bad. Their mother completely abandoned them and their younger siblings. She's never around. So the 2 oldest siblings in this group, which is a boy and a girl named Maya and I always forget his name, Lochin, they have to act as the parents to their younger siblings. So because they have this very mother-father-parent relationship in a way, because they have to take care of their younger siblings all the time and be the parents in this situation, they kind of never really felt like the 2 of them are siblings. So because of that, they really fall in love with each other. And because of this situation, it's kind of justified in a way for them to fall in love with each other. At the same time, yes, it's still incest. They're siblings, but throughout this book, you don't feel like they're siblings because they have to act like the parent figures in this situation. And their love is so strong and so genuine that you really don't care that they're siblings. It's just, this book is just so mind-boggling that it could take such a taboo topic and make you think about it in such a different way. And I just completely fell in love with this book. I couldn't put it down. The ending, though, ruined me. It broke me. You know, because of this situation, that it's not going to have a happy ending. You know that when you're going into this book. I'm not spoiling that for you. This book gave me the biggest book hangover of my whole life. I just could not stop thinking about this book. To this day, I can't stop thinking about the endings of this book and how much it hurt me to my core. I love this book. Definitely would recommend it as long as you can handle the subject matter, but I promise you it is great even though it's about incest. It is such a great book that I just want everyone to read. Okay, now we're getting into my top 3. Getting really excited. These are my top 3 favorite books of all time. So coming in at number 3 is a book I talk about constantly. If you have watched my videos before, you might know what this book is. That is Every Day by David Levithan. I never get over this book. It is so great. So this book is about a person who is not really a person. He's more of like a soul. That's what I think of him as. And his name is A, and he changes from different bodies every day. So he's never the same person every day. And he one day is in the body of this guy named Justin, and he meets Justin's girlfriend through his body. And he ends up falling in love with her, but because he changes bodies every day, he can never be with her. But throughout his changing of bodies, he's trying to find a way to make his way back to her and to be with her. This book deals with a really popular theme of loving someone not for what they look like, but because of their personality, because this girl also starts to fall in love with this person who changes bodies every day, and she doesn't know what he's actually like, but she loves him for him and his personality, and I love that theme. I think this book does that theme so well. It is such an inspirational story. It'll really make you think differently on how we view people and how we show that we love them. Like, do we love them because of the way they look? I mean, people can be attractive, but do we also love them because of who they are? And I love that theme, and I just love how that theme was handled in this book. I would highly recommend this book. It's a great contemporary read, and it's so unique. It deals with such a unique concept, and it is getting a movie, which I'm really excited for. I can't wait to see how this movie is going to be handled. I think it's going to be very interesting, and yeah, this will always remain one of my favorite books of all time. Coming in second place, these two, the first and second place, were so hard to choose what my favorite was going to be. It was so hard, but this is another one I talk about constantly, and it's a very popular book on BookTube and in the book community, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I'm sure many of you know what this book is about. I'm not even going to explain it because I feel like so many people talk about it that I really don't feel the need to anymore. And I've talked about this book so much, but it is a fairy tale retelling the story of Beauty and the Beast, and it deals with fairies, and it is so great. The one word I can describe this series is magical. It is just beautiful. The characters are great. The setting is great. And it's one of my all-time, probably my #1 favorite fantasy book of all time. It is just amazing, and I've reread it several times. I never get tired of it. And I would actually include A Court of Mist and Fury, the sequel to this book, along with this one itself. I love both of those books equally, and I would place them both at #2 on this list. The third book that just came out, I didn't like that much. I still enjoyed it, but there were some disappointing factors that I had with it. But I love the first 2 books. They are amazing, and I just love Rhys Samuel. He is great. He is mainly featured in A Court of Mist and Fury, but he is in this book too, and I just love him to death, and I will never get tired of this series, and I can't wait to reread it in the future. Now we are at my all-time favorite book, and it was hard to find, like I said, a favorite book of all time. Really hard, but the more I thought about this book, the more I think about it today, I am still not over how much I loved it. And I actually read this book quite recently too. I read it this year, but I just easily consider it my favorite book of all time. And I've talked about it a few times on this channel, so you might know what it is. And that is The Problem with Forever by Jennifer L. Armentrout. It's hard to really comprehend how much I love this book. I love it so much. So this book deals with such a great subject matter, and I will go into what it's about in case you don't know. So this book is about a girl named Mallory, and she used to be in foster care, but in her foster home she was abused. Her foster parents were so mean to her, and they did not respect her at all, so she was always abused. And she also lived there with another boy named Ryder, who was also abused. And she eventually gets out of this situation. She gets adopted to new parents who love her way more than her foster parents did. But she gets separated from her best friend Ryder because of this. So when she is much older, she starts her senior year of high school at a new school. And there she runs into her former best friend Ryder, and they reconnect, and they start to build up this relationship. I have no other words to describe this book other than it's just amazing. Please, if you have not read it, check it out. This is another polarizing book. A lot of people either hate or love, and I honestly can't understand how anyone could hate this book. This is the only book out of every book I've read that I just can't help but disagree with everyone who hates this book. Usually with books, if someone hates a book I like, I'll be like, okay, I understand your reasons, like, that's fine. We all have opinions. But with this book, I honestly don't get it. How someone could hate this book just because I think it's so amazing. So whenever I hear negative reviews on this book, I'm just always left like, really? Really? You really hate it? How can you hate this book? It's so great. The characters are great. The concept is great. The themes are great. Everything about this book is just so great that I just don't understand how anyone could hate it. And I just wish it wasn't so badly received as it is. I mean, there are a lot of people who love this book, but there are also a lot of people who hate it, and I just don't get that. And the reasons I love this book is the theme. So because this book deals with these two characters who were abused in their childhood, it is definitely a very, very sad subject matter. But what I love is how these two characters reconnect, and they start to kind of reflect on their situation, how bad it was, but they also learn together how to grow from it. And I think that's just such a great thing. I think the theme of overcoming your past and just becoming a better person and not letting your past define you and alter your personality to how it is today. And these two characters just really help each other get through their abuse because they both went through it together. They understand each other. And I just love that. And as well, I also love the romance in this book. The romance in this book, oh my god. The best romance I have ever read about. It is so great. It will definitely give you the feels. I definitely felt these characters' connections. They were so strong. I was left crying at the end of this book because I saw myself as Mallory. I was never put in her situation, but she is literally me in book form. She is very reserved. She is very timid and shy. She has anxiety. She has social anxiety. That is me. That is me as a character in a book. And it literally made me cry because it made me feel like there are other people out there who are just like me. And sometimes I feel alone when it comes to my anxiety, my social anxiety, my shyness, just everything. And to read about a character who is going through that was just incredible. And I just loved reading about her because of that. So I would highly recommend for you to read this book. If you have not yet, it is amazing, and I still, to this very day, think back on it so fondly. So those were my top 10 favorite books of all time. Again, this list is bound to change the more I read more books and the more I discover more favorites, but as of this moment, this is my top 10, and I'm sticking with that. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If I seem like I'm getting really dreary, I didn't get any sleep last night, so literally, the moment I turn off this camera, I'm going to take a nap. So that's why I kind of seem like very down right now. It's like it's nap time. But again, thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below for more bookish related videos and top 10 lists in the future. And I'll be